Today we will be presenting on the subject of this issue of whether there is consensus between boards and IT management on the importance of IT governance issues in Malaysia. Okay, this is a joint presentation between myself and my research assistant, Syed FARHAN. Now, let's first of all look at the importance of ITG. IT systems are increasingly indispensable for daily operations in most organizations, resulting in spending on IT assets being more than 50% of overall capital expenditure. Now, the contemporary global business environment is increasingly reliant on IT, hence the need for more effective and efficient IT governance. IT governance, you need to keep in mind, is a subset of overall corporate governance, focusing on IT systems, their performance, and risk management. So boards who are responsible for this stewardship depend on IT management to implement both the necessary systems as well as the appropriate IT controls. Now, boards play a critical role in the governance of organizations. Despite the continued call for improved IT governance, there has been little research into how boards govern IT. Now, the current research indicates that boards appear to struggle to understand the state of IT within their companies and that they lack appropriate IT skills in discussing IT issues. So, our study attempts to assess if there is consensus between boards and IT management regarding the importance of IT governance issues by using a model developed from a literature review of IT governance issues in 3 domains: IT organizations, professional accounting associations, and academic research. So we then test this model using Malaysia as a pilot study to evaluate the level of consensus between boards and IT management. Now, why did we choose Malaysia? Malaysia was chosen due to the importance given to corporate governance in the 9th Malaysia Plan report prepared by the Economic Planning Unit of the Prime Minister's Department of Malaysia. Now, as part of this study, we identified from the literature 4 important issues or 4 critical areas related to IT governance. And then we grouped them under 4 headings: strategic planning issues, which we identified 15 issues, internal control issues, where we identified 9 issues, business risk issues, where we identified 4 issues, and privacy and legal issues, where we identified 5 issues. Now, in respect of strategic planning issues, we identified 15 issues. I won't go through the whole list, but some of the ones are strategic value of IT to the company, the company's awareness of options for effective, efficient, and acceptable use of IT, alignment between all IT activities and all the company's objectives. Okay, so this is just a smattering of the 15 strategic planning issues that we identified. Then, in respect of internal control issues, we identified 9 issues, including appropriate oversight of all IT-related strategic and operational risks, ensuring standards for security and document retention are in place, setting up IT fraud prevention detection platforms throughout the organization, and so on, 9 issues. Then, in respect of business risk, privacy, and legal issues, we identified 9 issues, including being cognizant of developments in IT trends and emerging technologies for future business needs, ensuring that issues related to IT business continuity risk identified and acted upon, ensuring appropriate use of social media platforms to track and assess consumer sentiment, ensuring that all local legislative and regulatory requirements for protecting personal information as well as policy and procedures for compliance are adhered to. This again is just a snapshot of the 15 business risk and privacy and legal issues that we identified. Now, for the purposes of this survey, we developed a survey instrument which we extracted from the literature review, and we listed 33 current critical IT governance issues facing boards of directors. We then surveyed both boards and chief information officers, chief technology officers of Malaysian companies to evaluate the importance of each IT governance issues on a 5-point Likert scale, ranging from 1 very unimportant to 5 very important. The survey instrument was prepared in 2 parts. Part 1 listed 5 demographic questions about both the respondent as well as their company. Part 2 then listed the 33 issues within these 4 domains: strategic planning, internal control, business risk, privacy and legal, and asked both groups of respondents, namely boards and IT management, as represented by CIOs and CTOs, to evaluate in terms of importance each IT governance issue facing their company today. So on that basis, we came up with the research question, which is there consensus between boards and IT management on the importance of IT governance issues? Now, these are some of the results. Okay, these are the results. As you can see from this table 1, which looked at strategic issues, comparing the mean scores given by boards and the mean scores given by IT management. So the issues that were significant at the 95% confidence level were strategic issue 1, strategic issue 3, and strategic issue 4. The rest of the issues were not statistically significant. In relation to internal control issues, we identified internal control issue number 4 to be statistically significant. Out of the 9 internal control issues, only one issue, namely internal control issue number 4, was identified to be statistically significant. Now, in relation to business risk, privacy, and legal issues, we identified the first one, business risk issue 1 as statistically significant, privacy legal issue 1 as statistically significant, and privacy legal issue 3 to be statistically significant at the 95% confidence interval. So tables 1 to 3 that I just highlighted just now summarize the means for each separate batch of issues as evaluated independently by the two groups of respondents, namely boards of directors and IT management. Now, for 22 IT governance issues that we surveyed, IT management ranked them as more important than boards of directors. Now, for 11 IT governance issues which we surveyed, boards of directors ranked them to be more important than IT management. So, only in respect of 3 strategic issues were the differences significant at the 95% confidence interval, and only in respect of 1 internal control issue, the difference was significant at the 95% confidence interval. And for business risk issue, likewise, only 1 issue was found to be significant at the 95% confidence interval. And in respect of privacy and legal issues, only 2 issues were identified as statistically significant at the 95% confidence interval. So the 7 issues in total that we identified earlier as being statistically significant include 3 strategic issues, include 1 internal control issue, include 1 business risk issue, and include 2 privacy and legal issues, which you can see on my slide. So as we can see, the 7 IT governance issues identified earlier were spread out across the 4 domains, namely strategic issues, internal control issues, business risk issues, as well as privacy and legal issues, and therefore they were not focused in any one particular area. So finally, I come to my conclusion. Therefore, we conclude that our research question regarding consensus between boards and IT management cannot be answered in the affirmative with certainty. Because out of the 33 issues that we surveyed, 7 issues were found to be significantly different at the 95% confidence interval, whereas the remaining 26 issues, the differences, if any, were found not to be statistically significant. Therefore, from this study, we can infer that whereas overall there is some consensus between boards and IT management as to the importance of IT governance related issues in Malaysia, for 7 specific issues, however, IT management considers them significantly more important than boards. This represents some 20% of specifically identified IT governance issues. This therefore suggests evidence of a gap between IT management and boards in the evaluation of the importance of certain IT governance issues, and is therefore worthy of further investigation in future research. So with that, I come to the end of my presentation. Thank you very much for listening to me.